FM 89.9. Good morning, I am Nadia Hassan, sitting in for Sharat Kutan doing your morning headlines. Today's theme of all the papers is water, water everywhere, but hey, you better ration it. It actually is the front cover of all the papers this morning, if you can actually see it. It's the front of the New Straits Times where it goes unthinkable. If you, in front of the Malay Mail where it basically says hot spell, although I have a feeling it should be dry spell, and talking about bracing for the worst. So the issue is that we have been having this problem about the dropping water levels for a couple of weeks. But the problem was that nobody seems to give you a definite answer. Some says it's very bad, some says it's not so bad. It's gotten to the point where the Selangor state government actually had to step in and impose this water rationing. So for those of you who are hit by this, you'll have what they have: 2 days on, 2 days off, where you have absolutely no water. But then the question that most people are boggling is like, why has it gotten to this? Why hasn't anybody sort of given them a preemptive warning? Because the water rationing, or as if you go to the Malay papers, is known as chatu. That's the word of the day, chatu, is that they were given no forewarning. They were given no forewarning. They were just told out of the blue. So I don't know whether or not people will just sort of rush to their pumps and hopefully sort of stock up. It doesn't help that the Meteorological Society is saying that be prepared for even more hot weather. Temperatures above 34% with almost like 0% of rain. And in fact, it echoes the 1998 water crisis. And if you read the papers, they will actually say the residents are furious that the authorities have not learned from the last major water crisis. It seems that no matter how many times it comes wrong, people still seem to commit the same mistakes. MB Khalid actually tweeted yesterday talking about how the rationing would be implemented, but there has been no comment from Shahbaz. That's the most telling thing. In fact, there's been no comment from Shahbaz as to this issue. Shahbaz actually refused to do the rationing, or chatuing as they call it, and as a result, that's why the Selangor government had to come in. The Sun has a very balanced view on the whole issue. NST and Berita Harian have not wasted any time sort of pointing the fingers and saying that, hey, you guys completely made or fail, if you want to be very, very hippie about it. And Sina and Utusan amazingly were very on the fence, just stated the facts about the water rationing and did not go further than that. But if you read the Malay Mail, the inside, they talk about the state government being under fire. And definitely if the water cuts do continue and nothing kind of happens, this issue will not be settled, and we'll see more of it in the papers. Very wet issue as the case may be. The other thing that's making the headlines on Utusan, for example, is talking about charging immigrants or charging foreign workers the same rates as everybody else. Apparently, according to them, they will now have the clinics charging foreign workers the same amount as they're charging the locals, because currently they get rates about 30 to 40% cheaper, and they're going to get away. That's going to go away for that. The problem is, or the issue is, although this will keep the people happy, is the fact that this just adds more costs to those companies that already employ foreign workers, and already you're talking about minimum wage for foreign workers. So this is just going to boost up the price entirely, and it wonders whether Malaysia will still continue having its position as a place of slightly less costlier labour and place to do business. The other story that's in Sina Harian in the pages is actually about BRIM, which is Pemberian Bantuan Rakyat 1 Malaysia, and talking about how it actually only has a small impact. And the funny thing is, the story actually points out that it's only used as a tool to garner support for the BN government. No duh. I mean, seriously, what else could it have been as? And because for me personally, if you talk about BRIM as a tool for the hardcore poor, for helping them out, yes, you do some help, but it's too wide a gun. It spreads across too many things, and you don't get it to the targeted segment. It's sort of like a blanket measure, which not always works. And that was an interesting story yesterday about how 17,000 people actually turned down BRIM after being the recipients of it the first time, because they actually raised above the salary level, and the second finance minister actually applauded that, saying that we have become more mature. But personally, I think that if the government wants to help the hardcore poor, there are other ways of doing it instead of just splashing money and hoping that you get votes. Looking at the front cover of Utusan today, as you can see, this very fetching picture of this rather burly man in combat fatigues hauling this poor girl out of a metal cabinet. Yes, they've had another round of the usual suspects rounding up all the illegal immigrants. 108 were apparently caught. And while this is sort of like normal, Sharat and I both share the view that these displays of machismo are probably not the best way of going about it, but it does make it seem like in fact, if you look at this, I just feel sympathy for them. It's not as if I want them to go back to where they are, but when you have like big burly guy hauling little girl out of a metal cabinet, it's hard to feel sorry for the big burly guy wielding the flashlight. Last two topics of the day we're moving on to is basically mangoes and death threats. It's not people making death threats with mangoes or poor mangoes receiving death threats. The whole thing is about this giant Aussie mango. It takes up half a page of The Sun talking about it being stolen. So thieves armed with heavy machinery and cranes made a daring midnight heist in northern Australia. They stole a 10-meter, 7-ton mango monument. Now this is really fascinating for the very simple reason, where on earth are you going to store it? Although maybe the thieves were smart enough, they would have scrapped it and melted it by now. And there's apparently CCTV of the event, so maybe they will get these mango thieves soon enough. But for me personally, I'd be more worried as to where the hey they got the crane and heavy equipment. I think some construction site is probably missing those implements as we speak. Finally, about the death threats, it's on the front page of Utusan, and talking about Shen Yi-on. He is the president for Pertubuhan Hak Belia, Malaysia, saying that he wrote an expose about the Red Bean Army, and he subsequently received threats via social media. He then sort of like cried a little foul and said, hang on, if Teresa Cox's slap threats received so much support from Malaysia Kini sympathy, but his did not even receive a little mention. Oh, poor dear. You know, I mean, it's fine, and death threats are bad regardless of whatever happens, but yeah. That's all I have for you this morning. I am Nadia Hassan with Morning Headlines for BFM 89.9.